being at a complete disconnect with the American people. Nowhere is this more obvious than when it comes to disdain for religion. So yesterday on The View, Joy Behar, who is just an insufferable human being, Joy, which, again, Joy, have me on your show, right? I know that's a hell of a pitch. You're insufferable, have me on your show. But nonetheless, The View, I think they are probably a little afraid to have me on that show, which I would be too if I were their producers. In any case, Joy Behar goes after Mike Pence yesterday in the most disgusting terms about his religious observance.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's different. That's different.
That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
But I'm
hearing voices.
Okay, so just to be straight about how the left views religious people, if you say that you heard the voice of God, hey, what you mean usually, okay, let me just explain on behalf of religious people everywhere. When you say that you got a message from God, you don't actually mean that God sent you an email. Okay, it's not Bruce Almighty. This is not God picks up the phone and calls you. It's not Joan of Arc. You're hearing actual godly voices. What you get is a feeling that perhaps you're acting in consonance with your meaning in the universe. Okay, that you're acting in consonance with what God wants of you as you can decipher it in his word. Okay, that's what we mean as religious people. We don't mean that we're sitting around and Jesus starts talking to us. Say, ha, this is Jesus. Okay, that's not what we mean. Mike Pence, I don't know why he has a southern accent either, but the idea that Mike Pence is sitting around in the VP office waiting for Jesus to give him orders is insipid. I will also point out that Joy Behar would be the first person to say that men who say they are women do not have a mental illness. So if you're a man and you say you're a woman, you're not mentally ill. If you're a woman and you say you're a man, you're not mentally ill. But if you're a religious person and you say that you are trying to believe according to the dictates of Jesus and that you feel that you've gotten messages from Christ in your life, that this means that you're a full-on nutso. It's that sort of disdain for religion that is driving millions of people in the United States away from people like Joy Behar. It's not just Joy Behar. One of the people who's been most irritating about the Olympics is an ice skater named Adam Rippon. He's gay, which wouldn't make a difference, except he has made this the entirety of his identity. And when I say, I mean, like, he's made it his entire public persona. Not that he's a great ice skater, which apparently he is, but that he is gay and that he hates Mike Pence. So he apparently was ripping on Pence for being at the Olympics in the first place, suggesting that Mike Pence was for gay conversion therapy. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. This is not true. There is no evidence to support it whatsoever. Doesn't matter. He trotted that out. And then when Pence said, you know what? That's not true about me. I'd love to sit down with you. Rippon said, I'll never meet with you. So obviously a very tolerant dude. Well, yesterday he came out and he says, listen, I don't want my Olympic experience to be about Mike Pence. So let's get this straight. You punch Mike Pence in the face rhetorically, and then you run screaming from the room. And then you say you don't want your Olympic experience to be about Mike Pence because you've implied that religious people all over the United States hate gay folks. And here is Adam Rippon doing the same routine.
I have no problem talking about, what I've said because I stand by it. But I think right now, the Olympics are about Olympic competition and the athletes involved. And I talked to you about how I felt before the games. And, it's brought a lot of attention to, and questions to my other teammates. And I don't want to distract from their Olympic experience. And I don't want my Olympic experience to be about Mike Pence.
Well, it's a little late for that. It's a little late for that. You rip Mike Pence as a religious bigot, and then you come out and you say, well, I don't want my Olympic experience to be like that. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to rip Mike Pence as a religious bigot, and by extension, all of the people in America who are evangelical Christians as religious bigots. It's not just that, okay? The culture wars that the left launched brought them Trump. Okay? When I say this is how you got Trump, this is how you got Trump. You got a bunch of people in America who feel like they are constantly being set upon and torn to shreds for simply being religious people, or simply being white, right, in some cases, based on the intersectional politics of the left, or simply for being in a Midwestern state. Right? There are all these groups that the left has seen as great oppressors in American life: white folks, males, religious people. And then the left sets upon those people, and those people say, well, you know what? I'm going to vote for that guy who at least doesn't crap on me all the time. But this is what the Democratic Party does. This is what people on the left do on a routine basis. You want to reach out to folks, you want to win elections, then maybe you ought to stop trying to alienate them with incredibly radical language. And maybe you ought to stop with the fawning media coverage for social issues that are at best deeply controversial. So CNN, for example, has a piece today, and it's time for Bill Clinton to go, and now they're all hot and bothered about sexual harassment. I am excited. I will say this. I'm excited that Roy Moore is now forcing all Democrats to be consistent about sexual harassment, right? This is the only reason why they're pretending to care about Al Franken. I don't think they deeply care about Al Franken. They certainly didn't care about Bill Clinton being a disgusting piece of garbage until the last 5 minutes or so. This is the last year, I believe, Joy Behar saying that Bill Clinton's accusers were tramps on national television.
I wonder if she missed the opportunity to address it in a way that the public would understand that that's just not how you behave.
The big issue, I would like to apologize to those tramps that have slept with my husband.
Okay, so she's calling all of them tramps, right? This is until the last 5 minutes. Now it's believe the women, believe the women. The only reason the Democrats are saying this, of course, is because they want Roy Moore gone. The top rhetoric about Trump. They just can't help themselves. They have to go over the top on every element. So here's Whoopi Goldberg talking about Donald Trump. And it's not just that she disagrees with what Trump is doing. Donald Trump is now, you guessed it, the Taliban.
We have a leader who has repeatedly demeaned women, wants to defund organizations that benefit women, calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on religion. Are these values really much different than the Taliban's?
I mean...
Yes, they are. It turns out that Donald Trump is not the Taliban. He's not in favor of honor killings. Donald Trump, in fact, it's to stop the Taliban from coming in the country that he's implementing some of these immigration policies. That is the basic idea behind all of this, and I'd be very surprised if in the future his immigration moratorium does not extend to Afghanistan. Okay, the fact is, Donald Trump's entire stated purpose with regard to stopping an influx of immigrants from countries like Yemen and Somalia is because he doesn't want the culture of certain areas of the world infiltrating. What he means by that is radical Islam. It's not a Muslim ban, because radical Islam and Islam are not the same thing. But it is an attempt to fight the infiltration of radical Islam into the West. So no, Donald Trump is not like the Taliban. The idea that Donald Trump is the Taliban because he is, at least in policy, pro-life. The idea that Donald Trump is the Taliban because Donald Trump doesn't want me to pay for your contraceptives. The idea that Donald Trump is the Taliban because Donald Trump is undertaking immigration reform that is in large part moderate. I mean, it really is. Again, of the 10 most populous Muslim countries on earth, 9 of them are still able to send whoever they want to the United States. Citizens from those countries can enter. And there are going to be lots of exceptions to Donald Trump's new immigration policy. The Democrats cannot help themselves. The left have to portray Donald Trump as Satan more than Satan. And there is something here that I think is kind of fascinating, and that is on both sides of the aisle, there's a tendency to attribute to the other side some sort of masterful genius. So on the left, instead of them just saying, Donald Trump, kind of incompetent, doing some things I don't like, meh, right? Which is, if you're a leftist, that's sort of what you would be saying if you're a relatively rational leftist at this point. Donald Trump is doing things I don't like, but man, he really doesn't even know what he's doing. I mean, this is pretty incompetent. That's what, if I were on the left, that's what I would be saying at this point. But instead of doing that, they have to attribute to Donald Trump satanic, all-knowing power. Right? Donald Trump is secretly the Taliban. He's secretly Hitler. He secretly has a plan to take over everything and ruin it. Ooh, right? And on the right, we used to do the same thing with Obama. It wasn't just that Obama was incompetent in the rollout of Obamacare. It was all part of his evil plan, right? Everything that Obama did was all part. It was all part of the plan, right? It was all part of this evil, evil plan. Here's the truth. Most of the people in government suck at their jobs because most people in America suck at their jobs. Most adults suck at everything. Okay, the great lie of being an adult is that other adults know what they're doing. They generally don't. We all sort of muddle through, and then we hope for the best. The same is true in government. Because we attribute this level of mastery to government, we think it matters so much who heads the government, and when someone we like is in charge, we want that person to have more power. Because after all, if he's our side, we think he's the master of the universe, right? So when Donald Trump botched this executive order rollout, he had people saying it's 4D chess. It's 4D chess. No, it's not 4D chess, okay? If it's 4D chess, it's the kind of 4D chess like in Star Wars where you don't play chess with the Wookiee because he gets mad and rips out your arms, right? It's not actually Donald Trump playing four-dimensional chess in time, right? That's not what's going on here. But because there are so many people who have a religious belief that our leaders know what they're doing, they say give them more power, they know what they're doing. It hasn't been true for 100 years. We've muddled through anyway, but it hasn't been true for 100 years. You want to actually have a better country? Stop treating the people in government as though they're experts and know what they're doing all the time with evil plans or good plans, and just say, you know what? Whether they're evil, whether they're good, let's just cut the power of government totally, and then it won't matter because they're incompetent. It won't matter if they're evil, won't matter if they're good, they can't do anything. Right? What I would prefer is if we treated Washington, D.C. like it was the DMV and took as much power away as humanly possible. Okay? Everybody is trying to turn Donald Trump into Darth Vader on the left. And on the right, everybody tried to turn Barack Obama into Darth Vader. And I think Obama was in many ways more competent than Trump is at a lot of things. And I think he had more plans than Trump does. I think Trump is pretty ad hoc. But Obama wasn't in charge of things either. It turns out very few people are actually Darth Vader. Very few people are actually capable of being Darth Vader. And so that means that we should actually take power away from them. And if you're really that worried about Darth Vader, by the way, on the left, if you're really that worried about Donald Trump being Darth Vader, how about this? Instead of him running the empire, let's downsize the empire so it's just the Mos Eisley DMV. And then you don't have to worry about it. That'd be the easiest way to fix this.